Hong Kong, but is decidedly not. What you see there is a calm and collected chief executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, speaking at length, quietly, with a lovely velvet curtain behind her. That was not the case a year ago, where literally sentences into her address, demonstrators protesting disrupted this annual event. William Lee with us with Milken Institute, and of course, truly an expert with the IMF for years on the Pacific Rim. Bill Lee, what does Hong Kong look like Thanksgiving of 2021?
Quiet little speech you just talked about really speaks volumes. It says the international city that we used to know as Hong Kong is now just a regional suburb for the Pearl River Delta Basin, and its integration into China really tells us that the plan for China is no longer one country, two system, but one country and lots of suburbs, of which Hong Kong will be one, along with Shenzhen, the tech center. So this really is a huge change for how we should be looking at Hong Kong.
I have tattooed to my brain, Bill Lee, the experience of completely underestimating sanctions in South Africa a zillion years ago. What would you expect to see as a response of Western banks? Are they going to be co-opted by Beijing? Do they take a strategy, or do they really step away as they would step away from Shanghai or Chengdu?
The global banks will never step away because that Chinese market is so valuable to them. So whatever it takes, they will do and go along with whatever the Chinese want to preserve that market share within China. And I think one of the sad things is to say that the innovations that made Shenzhen and Hong Kong was the notion of experimentation. But we heard from a speech by Xi Jinping just about a month ago to say that all these innovations now have to be with an eye toward the needs of the central system. Instead of the old Deng Xiaoping, cross the river by touching stones, experiment, you fall in, you get wet. Well, now it's sort of like, make sure when you experiment, you keep the needs of the center, the mother country in mind. That kind of central planning and direction of innovation is something that I think will sort of destroy the goose that laid the golden eggs, both for Hong Kong as a financial center, financial innovations, as well as technological innovations that we saw out of Shenzhen.
Bill, I don't really know what to do with all of this news about possible defaults in China. I don't know if it's something that could be systemic or could really destabilize financial stability. Is it something that you worry about?
Yes, it is. And in fact, one of the huge vulnerabilities about China's development over the several decades has been the notion of bad lending, whether it's bad loans in banks and now bad corporate loans by way of the financial markets. And one of the things that the positive spin that China puts on this is that, well, we don't really have bankruptcy laws. So we need a couple of bankruptcies to just get us going and see what it is that to have bankruptcies and what kind of legal procedures we need to resolve these things. That's well and good, but there's such a huge mountain of debt there, and so much of it are with state-owned enterprises, state meaning provincial government as well as central government. And what was thought to be backed by the government with no credit risk now has a lot of credit risk. So the notion of evaluating good credit within China has to be rethought, and it's going to be a huge challenge for the private sector, especially the Western banks and Western lenders that go into China.
But we also saw, going back to Hong Kong, how does the Biden administration actually deal with that, and how do Hong Kongers react? Is there going to be a brain drain out of Hong Kong? If anything has showed, despite all of the concerns about rioting and the like and a crackdown in recent months, it's still the prime spot in Asia to raise money for IPOs and the like.
It has been, and I think that's the one crown jewel that Beijing is quite aware of, and until Shanghai becomes the new center for IPOs, which they tried with ANT and somehow flubbed because of the challenges to regulating the fintech industry. Until that happens, Hong Kong will still be the place where you get foreign money to come into China. And the Biden administration really hasn't said much about it, but what we know about the desire for President Biden to promote multilateral trade deals is that they will try to deal with China in a way that blends them into the global financial system and blends them into the IMF, World Bank nexus. And those talks have stalled in the sense that China has gone on its own to say, we're creating our own regional trade pacts. They just signed the regional trade pact with Southeast Asia. And it's so difficult for a lot of countries within there to get out of the tyranny of China, that India just said, forget it, I'm not taking part of this. So we have TPP and that new China-based regional trade agreement. These are the kind of regional blocks that the new Biden administration is going to have to confront in their multilateral framework. And that's a challenge that your guess is as good as mine, because the Obama administration didn't go anywhere making those things work.
Billy, thank you so much. A Milken Institute chief economist there joining us on a number of subjects. Now let's get straight